to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to switch things up a little bit tonight, and we're starting off with the Boces administrative budget. So Scott, I'll turn it right over to you.
Great, thank you. Where do you want me? Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, nice to see you. I'm Scott Blumenman, the District Superintendent at United Boces.
That's just, we didn't change that over from April Fools.
This is Lisa Decker. She's the Deputy Superintendent at Boces. Every year at this time, we like to come out and try to walk you through some of our programs, and then also talk to you a little bit about our capital, rent, and administrative budget. We have an annual meeting on April 6th. That's for board members, component board members, and we're going to come, and we're going to have it in person this year, April 6th. So if you open your packet, on the right-hand side, I'm going to ask you to just sort of ignore the first two pamphlets and then turn to the first page. It looks like sort of like an organization chart. Because Boces is structured just a little bit differently than a school district. We're pretty similar, but not identical, and I thought I'd walk you through some of the differences. So as you can see down at the bottom row, there's basically three sort of assistant superintendents at the Boces. The first is Lisa Decker, the deputy superintendent. She's right there in the middle. And her job is very similar to Matt Crumb's job, when she does a lot of business and finance and operations. One difference is that she does a little bit more regional work, for example. So she hosts monthly business official meetings, so some regional responsibilities. It's a little bit different than a school business official. You'll also see Dr. Matt Williams. He's our assistant for instruction. He does similar work to an assistant superintendent for instruction in the school district, but he also has some regional responsibilities. And then on the other side, you'll see Heather Mahoney. She's the executive director of the RIC. So that's just sort of the third leg that a Boces has, or at least our Boces has. It's a little bit different than a school district. So she does all the technology, not only for the 9 school districts in our Boces region, but for a total of 50 school districts across 4 different Boces regions. So although there are 37 Boces throughout the state, and most school districts are part of a Boces, all but a handful, there are only 12 of those Boces have RICs. And so the Boces down the road is one of those Boces that you have a RIC in. And Heather, I will say, she's really the leading RIC director in the state. I mean, she's one of the most senior, and she's sort of the chairperson of the RIC directors. So that's a great resource that you have nearby. Another difference is if you just move up a little bit, district superintendent, that's my role. So unlike a school superintendent, I have sort of a dual function. Actually, the function that primarily was the district superintendent's role was the commissioner's representative. So the district superintendent position has been around since about 1910, and that's just sort of the field representative for the Commissioner of Education. That role still exists today. What's different is Boces came along in the late 40s, and they said, who are we going to put Boces under? I know, we'll put it on these people's plate. Not mine personally, but district superintendent's place. So it's sort of a dual function. I report to a board, but I also report to the commissioner. So that's just a quick overview of the structure of the Boces. If you turn to the next page, titled Management Services, I'd like to provide this, and you may recall it from a prior year, but this kind of gives you a good overview of how Boces works. So at the top, you can see Boces provides a service when 2 or more school districts request it. So we don't do things that people don't ask for. We're market-driven. So if a school wants if more than one school wants a service, we do it. It's wherever 2 schools want to share, that's where Boces exists. If school districts don't want it, not only do we not want to do it, but we're not allowed to do it. So we only do things that are requested. Next box, you can see school districts independently decide to purchase Boces services. So as I said, we have to get requests. And by May 1st of each year, school districts decide whether they do or do not want a service. So you can get in every year and you can get out every year. So as a result of that, our staffing shrinks and grows every year and sort of morphs in the direction of where the demand is. Because again, we're market driven. Anticipating need. So our services are developed, their budgets are developed by committees of superintendents every fall. So they have input into the process. So they know the price structure when they're going forward to budget for their own budgets. And we benchmark against competition, especially in the private sector on the management services side. For example, we have bus mechanics and custodians and things like that. unlike in the instructional world, we can use the private sector to sort of benchmark our prices in the management services side. On the back side, it talks a little bit about BOCES revenue. At the top it says taxes. BOCES does not collect taxes. We don't have the power to collect a tax. We don't levy tax against the public. That's not a source of revenue for us. State aid, BOCES does not get state aid. That's not a revenue source for us. Our revenue source is derived from school districts. When school districts decide to purchase a service, that's revenue for us. When they decide not to purchase a service, we don't have that revenue. So we're market driven. We adopt a balanced budget every year, and the funds that we don't expend each year go back to the school districts. So we don't keep money. There's some limited money that we can keep, but mostly services or resources go back to school districts when we don't use them. We have an audit obligation. We go through internal audits and external audits, just like any school district does. We purchase through cooperative bidding, and again, at the bottom, you can see staffing. We shrink and grow based on the requests of school districts every year. Next document is just a quick summary of the services that you're involved with right now. So at the top, you can see CTE, and you've got 36 students in CTE right now. Special education, we've got 3 students involved in special education through BOCES. Next service is early childhood. I'll just run through a couple itinerant services. Staff development, that's led by Ed Ronaldo. Center for Instructional Support, so that's school library services led by Sue LeBlanc. Regional Information Center, I described that to you a few minutes ago. That's Heather Mahoney. There's quite a few services you can see listed under the RIC, vital part of many schools. And then under management services, just picking a few, labor relations and policy from Justin Murphy, cooperative bus maintenance, Frank Slawiak. So we're one of the few BOCES in the state that actually operate a cooperative bus maintenance program. Central Business Office, that's something Mr. Crum is familiar with, of course, because we partner with him in Medicaid reimbursement, for example. And at the bottom of that document, you can see cross contracts. So these are services you get from other BOCES. If we don't provide a service, you can contract with other BOCES to get that service. Next document goes into greater detail with some of the services. We call it our partnerships document. So if you look, it's a green document. So if you look at sort of at the top, you can see your CTE completion rates for 2021. In 2021, 4 students from Hamilton completed the first year of CTE, 15 students completed the second year, 11 students got a technical endorsement, which means they passed technical assessment, they submitted a senior project, and they did a portfolio at the end of the year, so it's sort of a special recognition. And then over on the right, you can see your current enrollment, as I indicated, 36 students. Back to the left, 2021-22 honor roll, you can see how many students were on the high honor, honor, and honorable mention for CTE. And then CTE placement, you can see the graduates of the CTE program, 42% of them are pursuing secondary education, 21% of them are employed in a program related to their CTE program, 16% military, and 21% other. And then halfway down the page, you can see the students who achieve the National Technical Honor Society recognition for CTE. You turn to the next page, some detail about special education. At the bottom, earlier I indicated we have 3 students, so you can see you have 1 student in an 811 IMN class. There are 2 students in a skills class, 1211. And then I won't spend a lot of time going through this document, but you can see there's a summary of our planning and grant writing service, early childhood, staff development, Center for Instructional Support, printing, again the RIC, policy development. I know folks are pretty active in the policy world. Business office services, and the central bus maintenance with Frank Slawiak. Next document is just a brochure, sort of highlighting our alternative and special education programs. So if you open it up, you can see on the first panel just a summary of an 811 program we have for K-6 students. These students are located at BDS and BOCES. So one thing school districts may not always realize, or the public may not realize, is we lease space from school districts. So that's an expense to us, but it's revenue to school districts. So for example, BDS is our landlord in this situation, and we house students over there. In the third panel, you can see we have a similar program for 712, ages 7 or grades 7 through 12. It's another 811 program. And then in the middle, we have a skills development program. It's a 1211 program at BDS. On the far right, an autism program. Sorry, I know this is a lot. Just take a look anytime you like. But elementary, on the back, we have a STARS program. This is a 612 program. And then Career Development Academy and Bright Futures Academy, these are our alternative education programs that have a career-based focus for middle and high school students. Next document. Just a couple of cards attached to that are about the Bright Futures Academy and the Career Development Academy. So just more information about that. Next document are a couple of postcards for our Propel program. I think one is designed for parents, maybe, and one is designed for students, yes. So this is a program where we partnered with MD. Students can earn a high school diploma from Hamilton, local high school diploma, Regents High School diploma, and they can earn a CTE endorsement at the same time and complete a year of MD by the time they graduate from high school. So when they get out of high school, we got their CTE endorsement, the high school diploma, a year of MD behind them, and then just one more year of school, they get an associate's degree at MD. That's our Propel program.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yes.
So would a student doing that start in 8th grade? Is that what I'm reading? Oh, never mind, over the course of 5 years.
Yes, right. They get associate's degree over the course of 5.
Thank you.
Sure. Next document's a booklet. This is of all our CTE programs, so you can read through it at your leisure. They're also posted on our website. If you just open up to the first page, for example, I can just describe for you, how it's laid out. Allied Health, that's one of our popular programs. There's a section here that says who should apply. So students with an 85 or a B average or higher, students who are self-motivated and have a strong work ethic, and students who are committed to excellence. You can see the units of study, the equipment that's needed, the class format, the class credits. So for example, students in this program get a unit of English, get a unit of government and economics, they get 2 units of CTE, and there's information about articulation agreements. So all the programs are outlined. There's a lot of interesting programs. We have an auto tech program, for example, where juniors are in the building, the seniors are out in the community actually working for working in private settings for companies. We have a criminal justice program that's very popular, a culinary program that's very popular. There's an engineering program. There's a foundations program. You folks are familiar with that. This is for 9th and 10th graders who are interested in CTE. So a lot of information in that book. And then just quickly, the remaining documents. There's a 2-sided document that says CTE, where education meets industry. So this is our dual credit summary. All the dual credits you can earn through CTE and getting college credit. Document after that is our school communications service. So this is led by Sapna Kalali. This is a service that's been growing, especially as local newspapers collapse, and especially as school leaders want to get their messages out to the community. So currently the participants in this service are Canastota, Oneida, Stockbridge, Rome, Mount Markham. So Mount Markham is a school outside of our Boces, but because that Boces does not provide the service, they cross-contract with us for school communications. Camden, and of course Boces itself is a school communication service. And then the next 2 documents are just brochures about the Mohawk Regional Information Center. Again, this is a 50 school district, 4 Boces service, one of 12 RICs in the state. And then our Labor Relations and Policy Service. So this is a team of school attorneys and policy specialists. And then a couple of documents just giving you some information about our staff development program. And then the final 2 brochures that I asked you to sort of set aside for a few minutes, these are summaries of some social emotional learning supports and services that are available through our early childhood program for staff and for students. So I know I went through that pretty quickly. Any questions about the program? You can ask now, or you can wait till after you hear from Lisa, who's going to walk you through the budgets.
How often do you cycle through programs? Like, Has there gotten a point where a program just loses interest, and how's that process go?
If we don't have the enrollment, the program doesn't continue. So there have been programs in the past, for example, we had a EMS program, emergency medical program, and we built it. People acted as though they were interested. I mean, at least school leaders felt that there would be interest. But then when there wasn't sufficient enrollment, we didn't continue it. Another example would be our alternative education program. We had that program for probably 25, 30 years. When the pandemic hit, some folks got kind of nervous about revenue, and they decided they did not want to continue that program. And so we ended up laying our staff off. 2 years go by, these students are working and learning remotely and online. They come back to the school building. School districts decide they want that program built again. So now we have the Career Development Academy and the Bright Futures Academy. So it could happen as often as every year. Generally, it does not. Generally, once the program is built, people invest in it and stay in it.
Right. Thank you.
Sure. Lisa Decker.
Thanks, Scott. So he leaves the fun part to me, the budget documents on the left side of your packet. I'll review first the administrative budget, which is on the blue sheet. So you'll see the 2021 completed school year budget and expenditures, the current 21-22 budget, and the proposed 22-23 budget to the right. So the BOCES administrative budget includes the salaries and fringe benefits for any of our central office administrative staff, clerical staff, as well as business office staff and clerical staff. We have some small line items for equipment, supplies, software, and interest on earned borrowing should we need to borrow. Some other expenses included in the administrative budget are any of the travel, mileage, meeting, workshop expenses for any of those staff members in the budget, as well as board meetings. The line item I like to draw your attention to is the auditors. So if you recall, years ago, back in 2006-07, there was a requirement for an internal audit. BOCES did an internal audit through 2013-14. At that time, there was an exemption allowance for certain BOCES in school districts that met criteria. That exemption is expiring. So next year, BOCES will be required to do an internal audit again. So you'll see that we budgeted for that expense. Membership fees include NISBA, NISCUS, ASBO, MARASA, rural schools. So these are organizations that provide advocacy efforts on behalf of our region. Membership fees, contractual expenses like our 403B compliance, our actuarial study for GASB, banking fees, similar contractual requirements as you would have in your own budget. Legal fees are in this budget, as well as postage and advertising for legal notices. Down on the bottom, you'll see a section called internal charges. So just as school districts pick and choose their services that they're going to get from BOCES, this budget pays for services such as the communication service, as well as RIC services for WINCAP support, financial support. So 21-22, the current budget total for direct expenses this year is $1,459,935. Proposed for 22-23 is $1,517,676, or a 3.96% proposed change. And then on the back, in the BOCES budget, unlike a school district budget, we have to account for all the liability for our retiree health insurance expense in this budget. We're anticipating 18 retirements next year, bringing the total administrative budget this year from $5,773,568 to $6,232,373, including the retiree health insurance expense. And then down in section C, you see the revenue sources to offset the cost above. We get some interest earnings, indirect cost from grants, retiree drug subsidy, reimbursement. We also have a line here, collections in advance. This is an account that we set up with our auditors years ago to set aside 1 year's worth of that retiree health insurance liability. And so that completely offsets that line item up above in the budget. And finally, the local component district contribution is the balance. This year, our 9 components are paying $1,156,861. Proposed for next year is $1,190,410, or 2.9% change. Down on the bottom shows the allocation for our region, which is based on our WADA, the resident weighted average daily attendance. In column 1, you see our regional, our WADA is 15,198. Hamilton represents 585, or 3.8% of the regional share this year. Next year, we are losing our WADA in our region. It's going down to 14,489. Hamilton is a little bit of an anomaly this year, actually gaining some of our WADA, so going from 585 to 589, bringing the the percent share to 4.1%. The current dollar share in column 3 for Hamilton is 44,530. Proposed for next year is 48,392. Column 4 shows the estimated aid ratio for Hamilton, 60.8 this year. With the growth in our WADA, that also helps the aid ratio a little bit, goes to 63.4. Hamilton is estimated to receive $18,654 this year in Boces aid on these expenses, and $20,786 for next year. And then finally, column 6 shows the estimated local share for all the districts after Boces aid is received. And that's $25,876 for this year and $27,606 for next year. Difference of $1,731. Are there any questions on the budget or the allocation? Okay, the second budget is our capital net budget on the green sheet. So as Scott mentioned earlier, Boces rents spaces for programs from school districts. We have, for instance, our Allied Health and Costello that we rent from Oneida City School District, from BBS, the equine room, as well as special ed rooms, and then we have summer school sites as well. We have a committee of superintendents that look at setting rent rates for the upcoming year. The second piece of the budget is the facilities projects. So in 2002, we did a major renovation on our Rossetti Education Center. We financed that through DASNY, and next year will be the final payment on that bond. And then we have our annual capital projects. We've been working on HVAC upgrades, safety, security, and space reconfigurations. The current budget is $1,738,700. Proposed for next year is the same, $1,738,700. So down below again, you see that same allocation, so I won't walk you through all of that again. So Hamilton's current share in column 3 is $66,926. Proposed for next year, $70,681. Applying the aid ratio in column 6, the estimated local share goes from $26,235 to $25,869, or actually a decrease of $366 after aid. Any questions on the capital rep budget? All right. We hope to see you at our annual meeting. Thank you so much for having us today.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Lisa.
Just one last thanks also for your regional leadership, and we have Ms. Jacobson on our board now, and that's outstanding. We just saw Mr. Jarko in the parking lot, he was great. Bill's held in very high regard among the superintendent peers, so it's really nice to see him with his contributions to the region. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any additions to the agenda, or just the one removal?
We have one removal.
We're moving the nightlight to April.
Correct. Yes.
With that, with that in mind, anything else? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Actually, I just wanna, I sent Debbie a late correction on the minutes.
No, we're not there yet.
We're not there, I'm sorry, I'm too far ahead. Okay, good, sorry,
Okay,
sorry, my fault.
sorry. All those in favor?
I,
Now, motion to approve the minutes of February 10th, regular meeting.
Second.
Discussion?
and I sent a late correction.
It's in there.
It's in there, but I'm looking at it, it looks like it's, yes, I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay. So, has that made it in? All those in favor? We need a recommendation recommended action is the motion to approve the following consent agenda. This brings us 3.1 through 4.1. And it's recommended by the superintendent. All those in favor?
You need a
Yeah,
motion.
that's what I mean.
I'll second.
Let's do that part first. Second. Now I do discussion on that. Treasurer's report, consideration of claims, transportation report, cafeteria report, transportation composition, capital project, phase 3, award of contract, Hamilton Public Library composition, and policy reading.
Matt's not here, but Bill Readiness, the capital project award contract, everything's the same as we anticipated it would be.
Yes.
That's what we expected. That's exactly the same thing. It's what we expected
It's
to
what we
go through.
expected
There's
to go
nothing,
through, yeah.
there's no surprises there.
Now, all those in favor?
All right.
That brings us to the beginning of our community participation. We'll start with the Essa report card presentation. I will turn it over to Bill and Chris, maybe?
Yeah.
And Amy.
So the board had asked, as one of your board goals, to request either a Boces representative or a NISBA representative to present a workshop in relation to accountability measures. So Amy Cones, who was the Mohawk Regional Information Center's district data leader, is going to join us and walk you through our Essa report card and how the accountability measures work. So Amy, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you.
Can we make sure we turn it up a little bit?
So pretty far.
Okay.
Okay, so I can't see you any longer, but can you hear me and see the presentation?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. For about the next 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to take a look at Essa accountability, give you a data review for the district, and an update of where Essa accountability stands. So, what is Essa? Essa is the Every Student Succeeds Act. And so Essa, in theory, is meant to promote educational equity, which means all students will succeed and thrive no matter who they are, where they live, or what school they go to. The Essa document for New York State is a little over 200 pages in length. You can reference it right on SED's website. And within those pages, there are 20 areas of focus that New York State outlines that school districts and school buildings should be addressing to ensure equity for students. Now, not all of those areas of focus are actually a measure that is held to an accountability standard. And so those areas that have accountability connected to them are highlighted in kind of this orangish color, connected to curriculum and standards, advanced coursework, student attendance, student services and supports, cultural responsiveness, equitable resources, college career and civic readiness, graduation rates, and student academic growth. And so what do those accountability measures look like? Again, Essa, while New York State has an Essa plan, this is based off of federal law, was signed into place in 2015, and the first Essa plan in New York State was implemented in the 2017-18 school year. And based on the regulations set forth by the federal government, the New York State plan highlights currently 7 measures of accountability. The 8th measure, which was going to take place, be added to the accountability system pre-pandemic, was out of school suspension. So now currently the accountability measures are just the 7 that are not highlighted right there in white there. And those measures are connected to student achievement, student growth and academic progress, graduation rates, English language proficiency, chronic absenteeism, and college career and civic readiness. I'm going to walk you through, at a very high level, what these 7 measures are. In your district, English language proficiency is not a measure that you're held accountable. You have to have 15 students on an annual basis in order to meet the data threshold for this particular accountability measure. So, accountability indicators. Student academic achievement. This is directly correlated to state testing. 3-8 assessments, ELA and math, 4-8 science, and then Regents assessments. And in terms of Regents, it is the score that the student earned on math, ELA, science, and social studies, the highest assessment in each of those categories score earned. And in this particular measure of accountability, you earn a score and then you are ranked against all other school districts and school buildings across New York State. If you rank in the bottom 10%, you are a level 1, 10 to 50%, level 2, 50 to 75%, level 3, and greater than 75% in terms of the ranking, you are a level 4. This is the top tier indicator in terms of Essa for starting to head down that path of potential identification for your district or school building. Next are student growth scores. Student growth scores only apply to elementary and middle schools that have students that are in grades 4 through 8. You have to have a student who has taken the assessment 2 years in a row in order to have a growth score calculated. And the growth score percentiles are listed for you here. 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s are assigned based on your overall student growth percentile. And if you're interested in the mechanics behind the actual formula that's used for the growth score, again, that is public information. It's on SCD's website. The next measure of accountability that is connected to state assessments are the academic progress measures. These measures are, again, just for ELA and for math. There are academic progress measures for 3-8 tests as well as Regents. And this is not a ranking against other school buildings and school districts. You're competing with yourself. So you receive a baseline score. The current baseline year in New York State is the 16-17 school year, and you are looking to improve your score with each year of assessment. And you earn a level based on how much progress you are making towards increasing your score, and the target is 250 points. English language proficiency, I'll just hit on very quickly. There is a success ratio that is calculated, and again, similar to growth, you receive a 1, 2, 3, or 4 based on the progress targets and the achievement in terms of success ratio. Chronic absenteeism. Chronic absenteeism is about students who miss instructional opportunities. So it does not matter whether you are excused or unexcused absent, that instructional opportunity was missed. Students who miss more than 10% of instructional opportunities are categorized as chronically absent. The target for New York State is to have a chronic absenteeism rate that is less than 5%. This is not a measure where you are compared to other school districts. This is like academic progress, where you had a baseline rate in the 16-17 school year, and you are trying to decrease your rate each year based off of your initial baseline rate in 16-17. And then graduation rates. Graduation rates under Essa look different than they have in previous accountability systems. Graduation rates, you are competing against yourself, again, trying to increase your graduation rate. The goals are 95, 96, and 95%. I believe, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, Hamilton may have even had a 100% graduation rate for your baseline year, if not the following year.
That's correct.
So you've already exceeded in your school district the established targets of 95, 96, 97%. Graduation rates are based off of August graduation numbers and not June as they were in previous accountability systems. And then the final measure of success is college, career, and civic readiness. So for every student that graduates within 4 years of their high school career as of June, based on their type of diploma or experience that they had while they were in school, earns them a point value out of 2 points. And you, again, have a score, and that score is maximum value is 200 points. So you're trying to earn as many points as possible. And again, similar to chronic absenteeism or graduation rates or academic progress, you are competing against yourself to increase your score each year, to provide more opportunities for students each year. So those are the 7 accountability measures. That is the basis of what Essa is. Now, why are districts paying attention to Essa? The connection to the federal law is funding. And so Essa provides $1.6 billion of funding annually to New York State in the form of Title I, Title II, and Title IV funds. And those are the funds that are then distributed out to districts who are compliant with Essa accountability regulation. Now, we had a pandemic, or mid-pandemic, or however you'd like to look at that, but based off of COVID-19, Essa went into what we call a frozen state. There were no new identifications that were made during the 1920 or the 2021 school year. The U.S. Department of Education accepted the waivers that New York State put forward and froze accountability. And so what did that mean? That meant that there were no new statuses, there were no new determinations. New identifications were not made, so if you were on the list as a CSI or a TSI school, you remained on the list. No new measures of progress were established. The previously established measures of interim progress, or MIPS, those targets for each school district and school building, were not increased. Instead, they were just extended by 2 years, pushed forward for districts to try to achieve during this 21-22 school year. The federal government requires a 95% participation rate on state assessments. And so that participation rate was waived during the 1920 and 2021 school year. And then also data was released publicly, but as you may have seen this year, it is slow to be released and not all data has to be released. Chronic absenteeism, digital equity data, and graduation rate are points of data that will still be forthcoming here in this 21-22 school year for the previous school year. Now, where does Essa stand? In December, SED submitted a waiver to the U.S. Department of Education to again request the 6 things that you see on the screen. This waiver was declined. So that means accountability determinations will be made for the 22-23 school year based on the data of the 21-22 school year. Now, what SED is doing currently is discussing how that accountability formula will be calculated, because is 16-17 the right baseline year to use? Is 21-22 going to be the right baseline to use? There are some nuances in the formula where multiple years are combined together, the data, in order to generate the formula. So do we combine events of, data points that occurred during the pandemic? And then obviously with assessments, we are missing data for particular years. So these are all pieces of Essa that SED is currently working through. So the last place that I'd like to take you to is, where did Hamilton leave off with regards to your Essa data? So I'm going to take you, each screen will take you through the different category of Essa that Hamilton, the school district, and then your school buildings are accountable for under Essa. As we go through these, please know that Hamilton School District, grades 1 through 8 is one band. Grades 9 through 12 is another accountability band. Your elementary school, and then your junior, senior high school, which actually broken into your 6th, 7th, and 8th graders count together for one accountability. Your 9th through 12th graders count together for another accountability. All of Hamilton is in good standing as we move forward with Essa. So the way that you take a look at these data, is that we have had 2 years of data released. We had data released during the 18-19 school year, and then above that we had data released during the 19-20 school year. And for every subgroup that runs down the subgroup side and then across the top, you'll see each one of those measures of success that we started to talk about previously in the slides. You'll see the scores that the particular group earned. So Hamilton Central School District, grades 1 through 8. The most important column to pay attention to is the combined composite and student level growth column. So as we move through these slides, it's the combination of state assessments and growth on those state assessments for your 1-8 grade band, and then for your 9-12 grade band, it is going to be the combination of your Regents assessments and graduation rates that are most important, that really drive your Essa accountability. So this is Hamilton Central School District, the 9-12 grade band. Again, you'll notice that you do have some ones from the 19-20 school year for chronic absenteeism and college career and civic readiness. A 1 does not put you on a list as identified as a TSI or a CSI school. Your accountability status is in good standing. But what does happen in the district is there is a level 1 plan that is completed with your title grant based off of any ones that you do see from the 19-20 school year that was completed a couple of years ago prior to COVID. This is your elementary school. So this is just the elementary students. This does not include those middle school students that might fall in the 1-8 grade band. The elementary is pulled out separately. This is your junior, senior high school, grades 1 through 8. So again, not your elementary students. This is your 6th, 7th, 8th graders. And at the end of this slide deck, I can share with you a resource of where you can dig into the numbers a little bit more to talk through the ones that you see. You'll also notice that from the 18-19 school year, you were in good standing, potential to be identified, and then in the 19-20 school year, you transitioned back to in good standing. That comes from your previous focus status, removal of the focus status, and being in good standing under Essa, the new accountability system. This is your high school. And here is my contact information if you have questions. And linked in to the presentation is our Essa data dashboard. And you can use this resource to dig further into your scores to find out, you know, what was my baseline score, what is my target, how close were we to the target, did we miss it by a lot, did we make it by a lot. So I will stop sharing there. And take any questions that you have.
first let me just say thank you for spending the time to explain this to us. We hear some of this on a regular basis from here, but this was a good dive in so that we can understand it a little bit better as we talk about it. Questions? Yeah? Thoughts?
Amy, I shared your slide deck with the board, and after further review, if we have questions, we'll reach out to you. If that's okay with you?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for joining us.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
night. That brings us to our teacher presentation. So we have Ms. Jerome and Ms. Warren. If you would like to come up, you're up next. Such an exciting meeting tonight. So many things. Paper.
We want love that.
Amy, I'll take one from Mark. Or do you need one? Mark has it online?
No, we didn't share this particular one yet.
Do you need an extra? I can give mine to Mark. Oh, you're good.
So, this year, this past summer, we did an extension of what has been a couple of curriculum projects for us now. We started a couple of years ago looking at 9th and 10th grade curriculum, thinking about turning kids into readers a little bit more, but not leaving behind some of the classic literature that's out there. So we did 10th grade first, and that was fairly successful, so oh, let's do 9th grade. And we did, but we found we had some things overlapping. So this past summer, we went through and tightened up some of the units, and so that was most of what we did. Named things a little differently because we were sort of overlapping in a couple of places, and developed longer lists of books for kids to choose from. We looked at the picture book unit for 9th grade. I had used it in 10th grade. It was better in 9th. It's all there is to it. Talking about empathy and using that as a stepping off point for beginning high school and keeping up with some of those things. Diversity and self-discovery was kind of what we were looking for them. So Amy found, she's marvelous, Amy found a ton of picture books that had all of these things in it. And they broke out into groups, and we talked about how to relate to a picture book, how to read a picture book, which was interesting. Because you can read it like a regular book with pictures, and you have to read the pictures. So we talk a lot about that. The other diversity fiction was Unit 3. We read Of Mice and Men and talked about prejudice and treatment of other people. If you're familiar with Of Mice and Men, that's a big one in there. And then looked at, they got to choose their own fiction book to think about those same topics in relation to really newer books. They were, we'll call it more contemporary, for sure. And again, they got to choose. We've discovered, and it's not a surprise, I guess, that choosing your book means you invest in your book. You're more likely to read it, more likely to enjoy it. Had a couple that were like, oh, I didn't like it, but I finished it. Hey, that's a good thing, too. And we're hoping that by encouraging choice, we're encouraging them to become lifelong readers of some kind. Now, some kids' fiction isn't it. It's nonfiction. We just finished To Kill a Mockingbird in 9th grade. It's a long one, but a good one. And we're moving on to nonfiction narrative reading. Because nonfiction, we introduce it every year, nonfiction is not the dry technical reading that we had when we were in high school. Nonfiction used to be. Amy found a bunch of really great narratives about a lot of different things. And they, again, got to choose their narrative and talk about it and think about it.
That's coming up for us this year. And then I always end with Romeo and Juliet. Gotta get your Shakespeare.
And when Donna says narratives, you guys know what she's talking about? Yeah. It's more like a story.
It's not dry. I think we can't say that enough. 10th grade was the first year that we did, and again, we extended our project to kind of tighten up and clarify what those units were about. And we start with, I may be switching this up, we'll see. Start with what we called social issues books, inequity in ethnic, racial, gender roles, and reading fiction, contemporary YA books, young adult books, and how to respond to inequity, things that you could do. We talked about being a bystander. We've talked about a lot of those things. One of my goals is to get them kind of thinking outside themselves, which if you have teenagers or had teenagers, you know it's kind of a rough call. But I think it's working. And our other choice unit was social injustice and activism through memoirs. They read Night, which is a Holocaust member memoir by Elie Wiesel. We've taught that for years. It's powerful, and then we move toward, they get to choose a memoir. And we, again, Amy, wonderful, found a ton of memoirs that are activism-based. People who went through something and decided that they could help other people go through that thing. Lots of different ones. I can't even begin to talk about. Was it Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Yeah, we had that was a big one. And we also extended into graphic novels, which actually these were graphic memoirs, but with a sense that a graphic novel is not a comic book. It's a different kind of thing. A graphic novel is a serious novel, well, not serious, some of them are funny, but is a novel that's illustrated. Again, you have to read the pictures as well as the text. And talking about the theories on perspective of an event. There are several, there's always more than one perspective of an event. A memoir is one perspective, but when you start kind of searching around and looking, there are other ways to look at it. We developed a resume unit that kind of says it all. And we just finished Animal Farm. That's one of our classic texts that we're keeping. And if you're familiar with Animal Farm, you can look at the Ukraine and say, because a lot of what's happening now was happening then. He was writing about the Soviet Union, he was writing about communism, he was writing about Joseph Stalin. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But that was recognizing also manipulation and persuasion, because propaganda is huge. Which led to our unit right now, Persuasive Reading and Writing. They are developing their own propaganda, remembering that propaganda is not a positive or a negative word, but certainly has a negative connotation. They're developing a topic, they're going to write a speech, they're going to make an advertising, a 45-second advertisement, which the 1 minute and 30-second people are complaining about already. No, it's too long. We don't have all day. And then they'll present the project to the class. And they include some sort of visual aid, like a poster or a political cartoon or things like that. And to be able to recognize when you are being persuaded to do something. Sometimes I want to spend more time on reading media. This idea that there's so much out there when you're looking at social media, when you're looking at advertising media. Those are important things to understand how to figure out what's happening. And there's so much. I mean, I'm sure I'm persuaded at least 3 times a day to take out M&Ms or, do something. Okay, it's the M&Ms. But those things that are out there and kind of standing right in our faces. And then I end with Shakespeare. April is Shakespeare month. We do Othello in 10th grade. So by looking at the choice units, we solidified, I think, and clarified what those units are about. Amy got a chance to add to an already wonderfully curated list of books for the kids to choose from. And we don't stop. We still have titles now that we would like to add next year to some of these. Because new books come out all the time. So many books, so little time. And that's what we do.
Well, before we go, I have an advertisement. Everybody on the board should read a book called Becoming Nicole. It's not brand new, but my church, I'm running out right now because they are doing a book talk on, a book club on it for 3 weeks. It's amazing. It has a lot to do with the transgender issues and how a school board dealt with them. I forgot how many years old it is. It might only be 2 years old or so. But I would just, and I heard about this from my minister. So he said it was great. And so now we all jumped on and we're all doing it. So
I have it on the list.
I listened to it, but I count that as reading.
Any way you access the text is fine.
Before you run out, Amy and Donna, I just want to thank both of you for taking this leap and doing this work, because as the district moves into our DEI work, this is really important stuff. You're talking about empathy, you're talking about self-discovery, acceptance, diversity, social justice issues. Those are really important things to teach our kids. And the foundation that you're laying here is terrific, so thank you.
It doesn't feel like a leap as much as a fall. Fall off of it.
That's a question, because I'm looking at the required text. It's very Eurocentric. There's only one woman on the list. So obviously, I'm assuming you're hoping the students are picking some of that diversity up in their own
That's
choices.
coming from the choice.
What are the ways that you help foment that, help them choose things that are really going to be diverse and that they actually are getting that different
Well,
perspective?
My view is choose something that they're gonna like because I want them to like it, and then they will continue to read. So if they are maybe not jumping as far away from their comfort zone, if they're reading, I mean, I didn't read stuff, that I've branched out to now when I was younger. So I'm kind of more of the mind of just pick something you're really gonna like. I want our kids to be readers, obviously. So our lists, if you ever want to sit down with me to look at our lists, they're wonderful. And I'm just saying that.
But no,
they
you're
are.
right.
I
Because it
mean, our
contains
memoirs
a
are
plethora
incredible.
of diversity in there. The memoirs are from all over the place.
Yeah. I try to find something that isn't just, our small town. I try to get beyond that. And I actually have to go back to that. I wish I could find more about our small town kind of thing. Just because that's not being written. That hasn't been written in a while. And I think our kids sometimes would like to see themselves in literature. We're not seeing that. We're not seeing the rural poverty. So I kind of wish we could see some of that. So I know what you're saying, but I'm also saying I like to see a little of
Representation of everything. Because when you see yourself in something, that's really important.
And
We have
that's-
students who are seeing themselves, if it's not in, and some of them starting with the picture book unit, which has a very diverse group of authors and topics. Sorry, my brain just went. This idea of acceptance of diversity in Unit 3. How many books are on that list? 50 or 60 books?
I think it would be harder for me to not have those kind of books, if that makes sense, of what you're saying.
So when we're looking at them, we're encouraging them to choose something, and by the time I'm into quarter 2, I kind of have a sense of them as readers and what they might like. And Amy knows these kids since kindergarten, so she really knows.
So you're kind of giving them suggestions to
Yeah. Yes.
they'll like, but they will also this idea of getting.
They come up, we've been doing it more this year where they come up, I have them all on the table, and we pull out and say, oh my God, you have to read this.
Your smell of this. I love the smell of books.
Oh,
It's
I
weird.
love pages. Certain pages of books are just incredible. I know. Well, I can bring one down. I should have showed you one.
So that's where we're really trying to get the diversity, plus They have a test in front of them. The test isn't specific to content when you take the Regents in 11th grade, but it is, or generally tends to be, older types of reading. So that's a very different vocabulary than, yo, Brooke. You know, you're not gonna see that probably in the older kids. And I really like the books like this. I can't live for 6 weeks with a book I don't like.
But if you have, feel free to
Oh,
email
please.
both of us the titles.
Oh, those are too many.
It's
What
like-
if you wouldn't want us to comment?
No, but if you have specific authors.
And then we also have to think about age appropriate sorts of things that still will challenge them enough to keep them interested. We do need to look at transgender a little bit. We don't have.
We have as much as is out
I
there,
know,
that's
we've got what's out
appropriate.
there. There's a
That's
lot.
appropriate.
That's appropriate.
As you guys know that we are walking a fine line with, YA as a whole is walking a fine line of what to cover. And that's a hard thing.
I can tell a lot of time and effort went into this, so thank you both.
Thank you very much.
I have one thing to add.
I'm listening, Mark.
I can't see Amy and Don anymore. But, and I don't want to get Amy started on this, because I know it's close to her heart. But, you know, Donna had talked about one of the main goals is turning kids into readers, right? And currently, we're going through a fairly new thing with cell phones. And it's a battle. It really is a battle to have students to choose to pick up a book at some points and to lose themselves in a book when you can have access to a game that occupies your mind right then and there and provide some stimulus there. So, you know, keeping that in the back of their mind of turning kids into readers and all the work that they're doing to do that, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I won't keep going, but you know how I feel about that. Read a book.
There's no public, there's nothing on the chat.
That brings us to our public participation, so if anybody in the room would like to come up forward and say anything, you're welcome to. Please remember to give for 3 minutes.
Go right ahead.
No, we have another time later, so I don't see anybody jumping. Except Wes, do you want to come up and say anything, Wes? All right,
Another.
but that brings us to our exciting part of our meeting, and we are now into personnel. So I do like to do this part each individual motion. So we will go through this individually, and then at the end we'll do we have awards, a certificate to give everybody, so we'll do that at the end. So we'll do the motions first, and then we'll do the presentation after. So I would like a motion to appoint, a motion to approve the appointment of Bridget Alexander as a tenured special education teacher effective September 1, 2022, following the successful completion of her probationary period. Any discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Congratulations. I'd like a motion to approve the appointment of Victoria Dowd. Sorry, I always falter on your name. As a tenured counselor effective September 1st, 2022, following successful completion of her probationary period. Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor? Aye. I need a motion to approve the appointment of Celia Markowska as a tenured elementary teacher effective September 1, 2022, following the successful completion of her probationary period.
I'll second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. I need a motion to approve the appointment appointment of Austin Ellicott as tenured science teacher effective September 1, 2022, effective following the probationary period.
Second.
Wondering on words. Sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
These will be easy. I need a motion to approve the appointment of Sherry Howe as a tenured counselor effective September 1st, 2022, following the successful completion of her probationary period.
Second.
All the discussion will be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the appointment of Devin Clive as a tenured math teacher effective September 1st, 2022, following the successful completion of his probationary period.
I'll second.
Discussion will be an executive session. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the appointment of Robette Schubert as a tenured teacher assistant effective September 1, 2022, following the successful completion of her probationary period.
I'll second.
Discussion will be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
And last but not least, I need a motion to approve the appointment of Ryan Helk as a tenured special education teacher effective October 1, 2022, following the successful completion of his probationary period.
Second.
Discussion will be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So if we could have you guys come up. We have a couple little things for you. See if we can do this.
Bridget. Congratulations. Devin. Congratulations. Victoria. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
It is.
I'm sorry, I was.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sherry, congratulations. And Ryan, congratulations. Can you get them all in?
Oh, Bill, you're not getting in this?
Yeah, I'm just in my camera, so I'll have Kevin.
We gotta squeeze it like we like each other.
There you go.
They can't get everybody in there. I'll tell you what, we have to hire one more person. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, we got 3 good ones there.
And there's cake, so please don't leave without eating cake. There's cake. Ooh, there's cake. And thank you for having one of the longest meetings before you.
I love all you guys.
I'm not gonna have, I really want, I'm gonna
Cake.
So what I learned is don't go to a restaurant with Michelle.
Okay.
No.
The intermission sign is off.
We're
back on the internet.
But,
Thanks, Chris.
Yes.
but in board meetings, Bill, because we seem to not change the date every year, which maybe we should all, whoever's in charge of that next year, at least you three are definite, should think about adjusting the date of March meeting, not the end of birthday.
Oh, but it's fun, I say we keep it.
No.
It's a great color.
And let's make sure we have an extra long meeting again on his birthday.
Whoa, very, very bad to love us out.
So we are going to move along. We have I need a motion to accept the resignation of Melanie Britton as cleaner effective February 11th, 2022, with a sincere appreciation for services rendered to the district.
I'll move.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the appointment of William Clark as probationary cleaner effective March 28th, 2022, as recommended by the Director of Facilities, Business Manager, and Superintendent.
Second.
Discussion will be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to appoint, for the appointment of Shannon Newkirk as Provisional Office Assistant 1, effective March 21st, 2022, as recommended by the Elementary Principal, Director of DPS, and the Superintendent.
A second.
Hey, Debbie's been meeting.
I was gonna say, who wants to do it?
Okay, I move Jen second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the recommendation of the committees on special education and preschool special education.
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to nominate Michelle Jacobson for the office of Member of the Board of Cooperative Educational Services from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2024.
Second.
I'm gonna go with discussion. I'm assuming that you want to do this and are okay with this before we vote.
I am okay with it. I think because we've had a lot of change in the Boces board, that it's best to just have some stability going. So I think at this time this would be best. I do, in the future as we look forward, do think that it might be good to find that extra person to do the board, but as of right now.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Well, I'll do this one.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably better.
Nominating petitions. Motion to accept the nominating petitions of Michelle Jacobson and Jennifer Jones as candidates of the Board of Education for the 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2025, as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm not sure it's abstentions necessary on these. It seems like there's no conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Interest is pretty in
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Then all in favor?
Aye.
Oops, I forgot that.
I need a motion to accept the following donations with sincere appreciation and increase the budget for those amounts. Hamilton Bible Fellowship, thank you for your donation. And Hamilton Emerald Foundation, thank you for your donation.
Do you need to move?
Oh, yep.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Discussion, other than the thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate
And
it.
those are for the Emerald Foundation has a specific project, and the Bible Fellowship is for student needs. Just general fund.
Yeah, they make occasional sort of recurring donations just to support. We have, like in Betsy's office, we have some transports, backpacks, or just general, if teachers identify specific needs for students.
So it just goes that general fund.
Yep. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Great.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve Hamilton Central's participation on the Waterville varsity modified football programs during the 2022-2023 school year as recommended by the director of, athletic director and superintendent.
Second.
This will be contingent on participation and COVID or what other health measures, as well as parents will be responsible for the transportation.
That's correct.
Do we know how many students are?
We won't know until they have the fall sports sign-ups.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion time, board workshop. We were supposed to have one on March 14th. I have only gotten halfway through the book, to be public and honest. And we have one board member that's going to now be away that day. So I do think we need to move it. I am getting through the book, but I don't want to rush it either. So one thought is to move this to our summer workshop. And this would be part of our workshop in the summer. We could do it beforehand as well. Obviously, there's potential that Jen and I might not be in the summer workshop, depending on if there's other petitions that come in, or somebody else was voted for the summertime, but it could still be a discussion that could happen then.
What is the due date for those?
April
April
18th or something like that.
Board members.
It's later.
April
Yeah,
I have it on the budget.
18th, I think,
I thought it was in there.
Yeah.
April 18th.
Yeah.
Okay.
by 4 o'clock. And I don't know who's gonna, if they don't ask me for petitions, then they
Right.
can read that.
It's just until they turn them in. Which is, I mean, it's fine. I think that Bill and I talked about it quickly about that could be a good time to use during our workshop, a full day or half day workshop to do it then. We could also squeeze it in another time. Not squeeze it in, but find it.
I'm fine with either option. If somebody has a preference.
I mean, it's important stuff, but it's also important that we don't rush.
I mean, the summer workshop would be July.
July, August, usually August because you're away in July. Oh, so maybe July.
That's still nice.
Yeah.
I almost think,
We could
I'd
also,
say let's do it before the end of this board term.
we could also meet in April and we could also just break it up too. I mean, we could say,
We're supposed to just do the first half, right?
well, we were supposed to do the whole book, but then my question was to everybody and my open and honest thing was, I've only made it through half the book, so can anybody else at least get that far? So we could do something early April and do it half, and then see where we're at.
I
And
think
that
that's
way-
smart.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay. So we need to look at April.
I prefer Mondays and Wednesdays.
And you only have anything for Thursdays.
We were going to do it on Monday at 6, is that right?
What about April 4th?
The only Monday that we're
So the 18th, there's no school on the 18th. It doesn't matter much, but.
Another break with them, vacation.
What about the 20th? Did you say Wednesday, or did you?
Yeah, are we still on birthday weekend?
No.
Now the break is
It's the
11 through
11th
the
to
18th.
Yeah, I mean, the 20th should work.
So.
Do 6.
From 6 to 9 still, is that good?
Yes. I had 6 to 8:15 was what I wrote down.
What was on the agenda, 6 to 9?
6 to 9.
6 to 9, oh, there it is, 6 to 9.
But we were talking about doing the whole book, so if we're talking about half of it, maybe 6 to 8-ish.
And then we have a meeting next week.
We have a meeting on that.
The day before, the 19th.
Oh, it's a Tuesday meeting.
And we have
Plus, we also have the annual meeting on the 6th. I mean, I'm fine with all that, just to mention all that.
Shall we? 20 as it is? So we'll do the first half of the book
First half.
for there. So we discussed at the last meeting, at some point, that we were going to change things up slightly with the administrative report. So they have been submitted, and we will not be asking everybody to come up and go through their reports. So does anybody have any questions for Mark or Chris, Kevin, or Heather at this point?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. And it's for Kevin. That link you shared with us is really interesting.
You found, oh, okay, you worked good.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't find it the first time, I'm seeing it now, yeah.
It was, I thought it was, I haven't really gone through it much, but it looked like it's a very handy document. And
Exactly.
It shows how dedicated you are to data too, because
Oh, yeah.
it's an Australian website.
For sure. The research.
But it's worldwide data.
Right, the research, there's a Harvard professor that's.
So you're going all the way to Australia for your data. So I thought that was
There's
pretty
a lot of good data comes from .au.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, you have to convert from liters to gallons, but.
So, good job.
You don't have to.
I think you have to read from right to left.
Yeah.
Well, what caught me first was
Upside down.
they spelled behavior.
There you go.
And then I was like, wait a second. But that was very helpful, so good find, thank you.
Yeah, it's a concise kind of overview of a larger study, the larger meta study. There's a link in there for the larger study that if you want to go through numerous pages.
I'm sure you've done that.
More than,
I don't see it on here, but does anybody have any questions for Matt, or does Matt have anything?
I have a question for Heather.
Okay, sorry.
With the summer professional development that teachers are applying to, as they apply for these, can they all be eligible for this? Is this something that, for the virtual summer institutes at the Teachers College? Is there any limitation on all of them getting in?
Yeah, so this was trainings that a lot of the teachers have done in the past over many, many years. And so primarily the teachers that were asked to participate in these are newer teachers or teachers that were unable to do it over the past couple of years. So it's pretty strategic, and actually I think everyone has been accepted to it. So we jumped on it really fast because we also had tried to do it over last summer and it was all closed out. So this time I said, February 16th, you know, mark your bookmark it. And so yeah, so those teachers that needed to do it or wanted to do it were able to get in. So, yeah, so it's good.
Okay, and I don't have an elementary student. What's the book?
Yeah.
Crenshaw.
Crenshaw.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I said I wasn't going to talk, but I just have to say, like, we did an amazing assembly, and the HCS Reads Committee came together and gave all of the elementary students cat ears, and we had pop prints thanks to Morgan, and purple jelly beans, and they put on a skit. And so it was just super fun. It was really our second assembly this year, and the students are really excited. And Chris put up a website with everybody reading the chapters, so a lot of excitement over it. So yeah.
And Chris, I like that I see the book on the sign in the morning.
So it's fun.
So it's kind of neat to, as you drive by the school, you know what the book is. And so that's wonderful. Wonderful use of the sign.
And a huge thanks to the PTO too, because they, have continued to support this project, and so I really appreciate it.
Mark, I have a quick question for you. I'm just wondering, I see that you had like the parent-teacher conferences, and I'm just wondering, is that just like a handful of students, or is that a number of students? Just wondering where we stand with that.
Just a handful of students. Just making sure we have a plan and everything's on track and they're aware of different things that are going on.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Also, thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to just thank everybody for the Susical. We had 3 great shows, so that was great. Busy weekend. And then athletics wrapped up, so that was an exciting season for all of our teams. So.
Susical, all 3 performances were amazing.
They're so good.
I'm very tired from watching them, so I can't even imagine the people that put it together and all that went into it. I know the week leading up to it, Corey and I were in the parking lot very late several nights thinking of our children, but it came through here.
Sorry, I said Jamie many nights.
No, yeah. We've got the younger ones, that's why I said Corey. But yes, they did a great job. And it was really cool to have 3 through 12 on stage together.
It was awesome to see that.
That was really neat to be able to see that. Shall we turn it over to Matt?
Yeah, I just have, really just the biggest thing is to get our next round of budget coffee scheduled, if you would please. Just a quick timeline update. Our tax cap is done, submitted on March 1st. 2.95% would be our allowable tax levy increase. We've got multiple staff meetings with our cabinet staff in the next 2 weeks to really get a final hold on staffing programming for next year. The regularly scheduled April board meeting is on April 19th, which is a Tuesday. The budget has to be adopted and report cards submitted to the state by the 20th. Monday is after that, 25th. So unless we schedule another meeting after the 19th, which I don't think will be necessary to adopt the budget. So with that said, with the break being the week before that, I'd really like to have a coffee the week of the 4th, before the break. And by then we should have things pretty much set and ready to talk about programming, staffing, in anticipation of you adopting on the 19th. So I did look, just this last one we did on Tuesday, April 5th, AM, PM, or Wednesday, April 6th, we could do AM. The Boces annual meeting is the PM, so we can't do Wednesday night. So I think Tuesday, April 5th work.
Well, at one point you talked about going to Rotary.
Yep.
So can you get that in that week?
We will do that after the budget is adopted. So, while we're printing the newsletters and when we actually have a budget to present, that's what we'll be presenting.
And then you had talked at one point about doing the senior breakfast, senior coffee.
Yep. That's typically the first or second week in May.
I was hoping or thinking that those were going to cover one of these other coffees. Okay. If that's not the case,
Well, we have to meet so you can adopt the budget.
So the roadshow is presenting the budget.
Presenting the budget.
After it's adopted.
Yeah. I think historically we've had another coffee or another chance for the public, rather than just showing up on the 19th and here's the budget adopted. So we think we can have things finalized by that week in April before the break.
Okay.
Matt, I know we've kind of talked about before, but it's a little bit different. Did the rising energy costs cause any concern budget-wise for next year? Obviously the answer is yes, but to what extent?
Yes, and now the extent is unknown. And honestly, I don't even know what it is, but I was notified today that we had locked in our fuel price for next year, and there issues have emerged. So,
Gotcha.
So my guess is that vendors are probably having trouble based on what they
That answers my question.
thought they were committing to. I don't know.
But that's fine, that's it.
do we need to have 2 coffees? And I'm saying this because nobody came to the other coffees, right? And I'm not trying to downplay them, but nobody came to the morning one, nobody came to the evening one, except for those in the room right now. So is there a way that we can try to 2? Do we just think 1? Trying to just be considerate of people's time as well. However, making it still possible for the public to come. I'm not saying that, but.
Whatever.
Keep doing it.
Whatever Bill and Matt knows best.
You want to do the morning and the evening again, and we'll just split up like we did?
Do virtually if that's helpful for you folks. I mean, we can do it in person and virtually. I mean, we can, Bill and I can do it, and
It's actually not a bad idea to do one virtual and one in person, I think, because then that gives people the opportunity who may not be able, or both.
yeah, it can be both. I mean, we
Yeah,
can
both,
just stream.
both makes
We can
more
stream
sense.
both.
Let's do
Yeah.
that.
Both makes more sense.
That
I
would
think
make
that's,
us feel a
yeah.
little bit better about it.
Because I think that really does give people the opportunity who have trouble getting away from work, getting here, or getting childcare, or getting here, or don't want to come into a space that,
And
a high-risk person may not want to come
to
to.
Matt's point, budget coffees have historically happened around that time. Within region.
Okay, so, the 5th, at what time?
Is it the end or the 10th? I think we've done before.
It's a Tuesday.
You don't want to do the night one. Times?
I'd say if I attempt to go after 5:30.
I can do the morning one.
What's
Are
good?
you doing the morning one?
Yeah.
Anytime.
Tuesday or Wednesday for morning.
Tuesday. Tuesday's probably easier.
So do Tuesday the 5th at 9 a.m. and 6 p.m.?
I can do the, I'll adjust and do the morning one as well, so Corey and I'll come to the morning one.
And I'll do the evening one.
And just one other note, one of the things we'll be talking about in addition to the budget and programming and staffing is, I think it's going to be important now and throughout the end of this process is we need to make sure we touch on the property reassessments that have recently happened and and how that process is going to transpire in the next few weeks and ultimately the impact it has on people's tax bills. So,
That little letter came into my mail about yesterday.
So, we've been through it before. It is cyclical. Obviously, the town of Hamilton is the most significant because it's the biggest chunk of our tax base, but the other municipalities have gone through it as well. So, it will, 2.95% is the levy. That's all we control. But when there's a reassessment like this, it really changes the distribution of that tax levy to all of our taxpayers. So, Debbie will be ready. She knows.
Thank you, Debbie.
Bill's been
Do
well
you want to give us
versed.
like a 15-minute presentation on equalization rates? Or?
I
No.
can try to do it in 15 minutes.
No.
You can cram it in, can't you?
But I think the key point is it has nothing to do with the budget of the school. It
Correct.
doesn't increase the budget, it's not
What
like school.
what you
closing
as a
classes.
board are adopting is a spending plan, is the budget. And the tax levy increase that's required for that spending plan is 2.95%. And again, when we speak, we will make sure we're very clear on that. And
Debbie, will you send
throw
an
caution
invitation
to
out
people that may not.
with a link? Can you and Chris work on a link and send that out? So that we have everything we need for that to be live.
Oh, you mean your budget copy?
Yep.
Yeah, I
But
just
only
already
two
wrote it
minutes,
down.
So you'll send out an invite.
Yep. Thank you.
Superintendent's report.
I will start with an update on athletics from Ms. Freeth. Spring sports signups have started using Family ID, and the feedback that she has received has been positive regarding the new system. Currently, there are over 90 students registered to play spring sport in grades 7 through 12, so the numbers are excellent. Varsity spring sports start Monday the 14th, with modified beginning April 4th. Our tradition of strong academics and athletics at HCS continues. Congratulations to the girls varsity basketball team and the boys varsity basketball team for being recognized by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association for being named Scholar Athlete Teams. To qualify, 75% of the team roster or more have to have a GPA of 90 or higher. So, yeah.
Wow.
So good work by both those teams and the coaches.
Congratulations.
So, yep, congratulations to them. So that's athletic news. And I'll move into our mask optional update. I can't be more proud of our learning community. That's faculty, staff, students, parents, for the way they handled this. March 2nd was a big day for school districts, and we knew that the mask optional policy was going to raise concerns for some and ease concerns for others. And we ask in all of our communications for people to be understanding of that personal choice and be empathetic. And as usual, our district delivered. It was a lot of fun Wednesday for kids and staff to walk in, and there was an energy in the building, and people were very respectful of each other's personal choices. We still have students masked, we still have faculty and staff that are choosing to mask, and that's okay. And we're supporting all, and it's just, it's been truly amazing to see our learning community come together. So I can't be more proud, and I just want to say that publicly. Thank you to Betsy Marcellus, Dr. DeLorme, the board, our administrators for preparing us for that day. So it went off, and it continues to go very well. We probably had 10% of our population come on Wednesday masked, and then that has diminished somewhat as people become more comfortable without a mask. So I would say maybe 3 to 5% of our population, that's just a guesstimate, are continuing to wear masks throughout the district. I was in Albany earlier in the week for our NISCUS Winter Institute, and just some key takeaways. We had a meeting with the commissioner and deputy commissioner. The Regents exams in 3 through 8 testing are going to go off as planned. They're not going to be waived. As Amy mentioned, the waiver for accountability was rejected by the federal government. So the New York State accountability measures are in place and will be implemented in the spring. So Regents exams and 3 through 8 testing. The State Ed is formulating task force teams to analyze graduation measurements. So they are going to continue to look at the Regents exams. They're going to look at graduation pathways and put together a task force to examine them to see what direction the state wants to go. They recognize that there has to be a change. They also recognize that this teacher certification process is very cumbersome. It's difficult right now for teachers to become certified. They're looking to streamline that process. There is a teacher shortage, and they're recognizing that. And State Ed has made the commitment to look at pathways to become certified and make it easier, not less rigorous, but easier, the certification process. Also with special ed certifications. So if you're a 1211 special ed teacher, you have to have an SOCE certification, which means you're certified to cover all subject areas that you're teaching. And that's really difficult. There's not a lot of districts that have special ed teachers that are certified at special ed, math, science, English, social studies. So they're examining that as well. So that's good news. State Ed has really made a commitment through our new commissioner to listen to school districts, to listen to superintendents, and try to identify the problems and come up with some solutions to make it easier for schools to operate. So it's really positive news coming out of State Ed right now. Workshops, there was DEI, there was student voice, there was managing personnel issues, SEL, district funding, teacher morale, a really good conference. Our keynote speaker was Dan Cockrell, who was a 26-year Disney veteran. He was vice president of Magic Kingdom, and he shared this book with us, How's the Culture in Your Kingdom, that I'll be reading and sharing out with you. So really interesting, some takeaways from him. Emergency Go Home Drill. The annual Boces-wide Emergency Go Home Drill is scheduled for Friday, April 8th. All students are dismissed 15 minutes early on that day. They have to evacuate the building, they can come back in at 3 o'clock for athletic events. So we'll send out notifications to our families in preparation of that. To support Essa, State Ed is looking at a civics readiness pathway, which is a 4+1 pathway for graduation. And so there was a pilot last year. Schools can now opt in for the 22-23 school year. So Mark and Victoria are examining that with our social studies department. They're going to start looking at that to see if we can offer that as a pathway to graduation, which I think is terrific. It would be really good. We're also re-examining our seal of bilateral literacy pathway, which was put on hold due to COVID, but is now opened back up. So we're examining that. So we're going to hopefully be able to offer that. And then we are going to revisit our capstone initiative. Prior to COVID, Mark and the secondary faculty were looking at developing a capstone for graduation requirements from HCS. This would be a local decision for our seniors to do some sort of capstone project as a requirement for graduation. So we're revisiting that. And so hopefully these 3 initiatives can be implemented into our curriculum and provide some different pathways for our students, which I think is really positive. We have an abundance of iHealth rapid test kits that have been supplied by the Department of Health. So I've reached out to some of our local constituents, and I'm happy to say that we've donated 100 test kits to the Madison Lane apartments and to Heritage Farm. Took 100 test kits. I'm waiting to hear back from the village to see if they have a need. So we're going to try to share some of our at-home test kits with whomever needs them. So if you know of anybody, an organization, community organization that would like test kits, we have an abundance of them that we are willing to share with the community.
Have you checked it with CNS? Have you checked it with them?
I have not yet.
They
No.
have,
They have the same abundance.
yeah, they have boxes.
Okay.
I'm going to check with Dr. Gore.
Okay. I will do that.
I do think it was a good idea to do the same. I did see them put out at the,
We were laughing at first.
Yes.
Come watch our musical, take your COVID test.
but people
But they
take
were
them.
taking them.
Do you take it on the way in, or do you take it on the way out?
Yeah. I saw a couple people like stuffing it in like one purse, and then they put it in like their husband's suit pocket. I'm like, just take them. Just really, it's okay.
We have plenty.
Yeah, and there's no restriction on what those are used for, so it's okay to be
Yeah.
doing what we're doing.
Yep. 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 And lastly, the niche report came out, which ranks school districts in New York State and across the country. I have our New York State ranking. Happy to say we're number 3 in Madison County. We are number 230 out of 691 or 672 districts that reported in New York State. We are the number 45th safest school in New York State. So I think that's important to recognize. So our overall grade was a B+, A- in academics, B+ in teachers, B+ in clubs and activities, A+ in health and safety, A- in college prep, and a C in diversity.
I saw that report, and I would say, I think our teachers are better than B+. I don't care.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree. I agree.
So
Teachers, you're better.
I defer with
This
them.
Yeah.
I know they have a rubric.
Yeah.
Well, but it's also voluntary individual
It is.
participation, so it's
It is.
not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll take the good news.
It's individual experience.
Yep.
and- Yeah,
We
so,
will.
but again, I mean, I think there's
Yeah. There's
always something to learn from
There's
it,
some
right?
good things in there. Yep. Yeah.
Things to celebrate, things to learn.
Exactly.
Great. Questions for Bill? Other than how old is
It was this close, and
I was counting back.
I decided not to.
1 year older. How's that?
There you go.
I'm 1 year older.
The kids used to do.
Donna was doing that in the back
Keep
corner. I don't think I
Keep
know her
going.
though.
Yep.
Steering team updates, elementary?
We've not had a meeting since last meeting.
Okay.
Same with us, we meet next week. So
Okay.
we'll update you.
And same with Emerald Foundation.
There you go.
So,
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Done.
Quick and easy. Let's keep it like that. Knowledge sharing. So before we go anywhere else, we've got knowledge sharing Corey. Corey and I chatted about something and we're throwing this in here.
So the NISBA 22 conference is in Syracuse, and we got an email asking for presentation proposals. I think we should do a presentation on board workshop for goals, setting goals as a district and a board. And if you're interested in that, we don't need to all participate in that, just those who want. I'd be happy to write a proposal and send it around. It's not, it wouldn't count as board business because it's not affecting the school. So we could share that over email and just discuss that way if that's what everybody wanted to do. Anybody who doesn't want to participate as part of the presentation doesn't have to. If 2 or 3 of us wanted to do it, I think it'd be nice to have Bill on there as well, at least.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think it'd be great.
Do you have the dates? Because I want to put it on the calendar too, just to.
It's October 27th through 29th is the actual conference, and then we have to have a presentation proposal by the 28th.
Oh.
March 28th. But I'll have that, I'll send something around to center that. People can add their comments to it. And I'll do that.
Thank you.
Great. Anybody else for advocacy? Sorry, I wanted to jump on that because I didn't forget.
Oh, that's for someone to share.
Oh, we're still knowledge sharing.
Knowledge sharing, that's what I meant. Right there, okay. Knowledge sharing, anybody else have anything for this month, this time, other than that we're plugging through the book? We'll share that during the workshop, so.
Well, we just had a Essa,
We did.
so I think we all checked that box.
So there we go.
There we go.
All right. So now advocacy.
The only thing I have, did everyone complete their resolution survey? And if you haven't, can you do that? It's important. That's how NISBA decides like what they're going to advocate for. It takes like 2 minutes unless you really want to think or research something. But anybody that hasn't done that, please do that.
And then Corey, you had.
Oh yeah, also Bill and his team were kind of to put together this letter we got, the capital outlay advocacy letter. I just want to know if, my thought would be maybe it's best if we just have that as one letter that we all sign. Just
I agree.
Everybody's okay with that?
Yeah.
Do we need physical signatures, or could we just say, Bill's team, write this, put it on a letterhead and send it off for us? Just our names.
Yeah, we can just
You want to do that?
respectfully the board,
Yeah,
board of
and
education.
just change, you can just
We'll
feel free to
just
change we are the current board members.
And I believe that bill is in committee in both the House and the Assembly.
Yeah, I think we should send it to.
Yeah, send it to our
Yep.
assembly and our
Senator, yeah.
Great. Anybody else? Governor?
Yeah.
Keep it coming.
Keep going.
So if you guys don't mind throwing that together, finishing
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
through it together?
Yeah, thank you to Matt
Appreciate
for.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Great.
great.
Very good. Reminders. There's a correction. March 18th is the deadline for submission of petitions to be placed on the ballot.
That's
So,
outside.
from anything.
That's like the library and
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I had to read that twice. 'Cause
Good
And
proposition.
I was thinking 8, so that's why I slowed down, but 18, okay. March 26th, how to become a school board of education candidate and what to be expected and elected is, if you need to do that, you need to let Debbie know through Zoom. And April 18th is the deadline for petitions, so if anybody else would like to run for the school board, please get your petition, have it signed, and get it into Debbie by April 18th.
No, that's
At
a
4 o'clock.
superintendent day, but your office will be open.
I'll be here. And also, I just want to add, April 6th is the annual board meeting, BOCES board meeting, and I reserved the company school car if anybody wants to carpool with Bill.
The good one?
The good one.
Yeah.
Oh.
112.
Not, you're gonna have us all know.
What makes it good?
It's
a new.
It's a brand new
Suburban.
Suburban. It's, Jen and I took it this summer. And
Can we all fit in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It looked,
Sign me up to carpool.
it looked really funny to see me and Jen driving this.
It was just the two of us, so like this big huge vehicle.
We
I
get out.
actually drove it by myself too. It was like whoa. For me,
Michelle went to get it and she's like, I don't know if I can reach the gas. But we did it, we made it. Yeah.
Great. Chris, is there anybody online still?
Well, there's me and 3 other people, and I'm pretty sure that Mark is one of them.
Well, thank you to the other person
Thank you
who's
to
on. We really appreciate you being here. But you don't have anything in the comments, so we're going to go right past the community participation at this point. But we do appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
I need a motion to adjourn to executive session where we will discuss matters regarding employment history and financial implications of particular individuals.
Second.
We will be returning, yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
5 minutes.
So you asked about driving a big vehicle.